Now, history makers and record breakers are said to be honored in the 2021 Momentum GSport Awards later in August. Highly contested award categories will include the prestigious Momentum Athlete of the Year, Imperial African Woman in Sport, and the Global Woman in Sport. Nominations for these awards are open until the 9th of July. Well, let's delve further into the nominations and, of course, talk about the impact of COVID-19 on women in sports with the GSport for Girls founder, Kass Naidoo. Kass, good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday View. Thank you very much for your time. First up, GSports 2021, I suppose, going to be a virtual affair. I guess last year was the same. How difficult has it been putting it together?
Good afternoon, Dan. First up, let me just give you an update. We've received 130 public nominations to date, and we haven't even gotten to the lastminute.com entries to come. So it just shows you that the popularity of the awards is because women in sport, despite COVID, have punched above their weight. You mentioned the history makers and the record breakers. We actually mean that. There are some serious contenders this year, gold medal winners, first ever women appointees on boards. And I think women have shown that whatever the environment, it is a good time for women's sport. And unless we jump on now, we're going to find us making excuses in years to come.
Yeah, and 130, you said, nominations, and it's all sporting codes covering all categories. Are you able to share that with us?
It's all sporting codes that can enter. But what I really like about these awards, it's not just about the athletes on the field. You mentioned the Momentum Athlete of the Year, Imperial African Woman in Sport, and Global Women in Sport. And that's really where our top athletes will go head to head. But we have 5 women in media categories. And the importance of that is you can't be what you can't see. And the more we see women in the media, the more we will have young girls aspiring to tell their own stories. So that is quite a powerful element for us. But then when you look at the grassroots of sport in South Africa, it's really run by the volunteers and the supporters and the sports federations. Sponsors also get a shout out at the awards. So there are 20 awards up for public nomination. And the sports minister also presents 5 ministerial awards on the night. So very, very special. And I think women in sport have learned quite well how to own their success. I know you mentioned a virtual event. I can tell you what, with the kind of partners we have in Momentum, there's nothing virtual about owning your success. It happens, you feel it, and you remember it forever. And I think it's probably one of a kind in the world where there's such sincerity being shown around the power of recognition.
Yeah, but there has been a real impact on all our lives, in all sectors of life in the world. I mean, the Olympics last year were postponed to this year in Tokyo. We've seen football stadiums with no fans until now with the European Championships, a limited number of fans depending on the country where the football games are being played. But very much, I mean, big impact. The women that you are interacting with as you are putting together this year's edition of the GSport Awards, what are the kind of challenges that they had to battle through?
So last year when COVID hit, we had to make a very big decision. Do we close down the GSport newsroom, which was really around live sport, or do we keep plugging away at the good news stories? So we decided to challenge ourselves and tell one good story a day. It's resulted in an exclusive list of 18 pages of achievements. And that says so much about the fact that women have lost contracts. They've lost sponsorship deals. At the same time, they've had to pay their way, go qualify, and suddenly find themselves in the Olympic team. And I think COVID, as much as it's had its impact on us, it's actually helped us find our resolve. Because even in these tough times, and I think you'll agree with me, global sport has really held the world together. You're still finding large rights around commercial value being exchanged around the world. So sport is still the place where everyone wants to play. It's just that, how do you manage COVID? It is impacting everybody. And I often say to people, right now, every victory is a victory because the grave situation around COVID in South Africa means that the people very close to us are being affected.
Yeah, Kass Naidoo, I'm afraid that's all we have time for. International cricket broadcasting commentator as well, the founder of GSport for Girls, just sharing with us some of the challenges women in sport have been facing as she's putting together this year's edition of the GSports Awards.